That alone, verse 99. Knowledge and eye consciousness, both are one to him, for whom the veil is removed. To another there is doubt. If knowledge, having separated from eye, can become another, there is no one here to know knowledge. Commentary. Ariva is knowledge. Pure knowledge is different from the many conditioned forms of given knowledge. Like a salt crystal which is salt through and through, knowledge is knowledge through and through, in spite of all its apparent modulations. This truth is given in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which says that the Absolute entered in here, even to the tips of the fingernails. In the context of the manifested world, the permeation of the Absolute is analogically referred to as a sword that is put into a sheath, where the sword comes to the very end of it. Like that, in manifested beings, such as in the case of a human, the Absolute enters in even to the fingernail tip. Every modulation has a name, which delimits the particular formation of knowledge to which it refers. A name differentiates one area of knowledge from another area with another name. Although the name is only a verbal modulation of sound, it is capable of producing rigid walls of separation between the specified aspects of knowledge. Names are only just sounds, but the barriers they create sometimes cannot be broken. Because we are so riveted to the ideas which are specified by the names, it is precisely because we have assigned special names to each form that our experience seems to consist of interactions with a series of different forms. This is why some researchers in language think that word power or word dynamics are such that the way in which a language is structured influences behavior. In speech and reasoning, we resort to words, which are nominal identifications of forms of knowledge. Reasoning is always verbal. Either we are thinking or we are speaking and reasoning, and except for the sensations we cannot easily decipher. Our minds rush to give a name to any experience. Because of the constant naming process taking place, there arises the veiling of the part from the whole. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 147 says of the Supreme Self or the Absolute, people do not realize it, for it is incomplete when viewed as doing particular functions. When it only performs breathing, etc., it is called the vital force. When it speaks, the vocal organ, that is, the speaker. When it sees, the eye, seer. When it hears, the ear, listener. When it thinks, the mind, thinker, and so on. These are but its names due to functions. One who meditates upon each aspect of this totality does not know, because being qualified by each aspect of the totality, it is incomplete. In other words, any kind of specification delimits the Absolute and can no longer be the Absolute. That is why Narayana Guru reminds us here that knowledge, ariva, and the knower, aham or I, are not two. If, however, the knower is carried away by the specification of the name, he loses his comprehension of this truth, substituting the incomplete for the complete. The Upanishad continues, one should meditate upon it only as the Supreme Self, because in it all these become one. Of all these, this entity called the Self alone is to be known, because one knows all these through it, just as one can find a missing animal through its footprints. One who knows thus attains knowledge of unity and liberation. It is with such knowledge that we come to the absolute knowledge, Aham Brahmasmi, I am the Absolute. We have already mentioned the four great dictums, that thou art. This consciousness is the Absolute. This self is the Absolute. I am that Absolute. Of these, the last is the dictum of experience. One comes to this last experience when there is perfect identity between the knower and the known. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad continues in 1.4.10, and even now whoever knows that in a similar way, that is, I am Brahman, becomes this universe. Even the gods are powerless to prevent such a one's becoming the universe, for one becomes their self. On the other hand, one who adores another god, thinking, he is different from me and I am different from him, does not know. It is in consideration of such a possibility of error on the part of the knower that Narayana Guru says, Anyanundu Vadam. For another, there is argument. When one differentiates in one's mind, thinking I am one and this is another, for such a person there is argument. There is a separation between the knower and the known. At no stage does knowledge stand separated from the knower, which is why the Guru concludes, if knowledge can be separated from I, there is no one here to know knowledge. And the free translation of verse 99 is, knowledge and the self spoken of as I are one and the same to a person for whom the veil of ignorance is removed. To one whose intelligence is still veiled, there will be many hesitations to admit this identity. If the I could stand apart from knowledge, there would not be anyone to know knowledge.